Assassin's Creed 1, released in 2007, I think, is a very rigid video game. It almost feels like 53,000 on-rails moments stuck together with duct tape in some ways. Moving from one thing to another is always a little animation that kind of clicks in and then triggers. The combat is stiff and full of canned animations, and people obviously run around like it is 2007. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. It's not personal. Just die. Jesus, stop. Stop! You're being dramatic. This is maybe best demonstrated when you're doing one of the game's most fun things, which is this sort of parkour system. But unlike a game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, obviously there were 10 to 15 years between them. But Assassin's Creed's traversal, while it is very freeing, kind of in a Breath of the Wild sort of way, it's all interconnected little click-in points. It's like Legos versus playing with clay. That's not to say that Assassin's Creed has the freedom of Legos, just that it is sort of blocky and click-clacky, whereas Breath of the Wild is much more organic and freeform. The jump button doesn't actually make you jump unless it's in the right circumstance. In fact, if I hit it out of the right context, he not only does he not jump, he prays, which is the opposite of jumping, because jumping is cool and exciting, and prayer is, well, let's be honest, kind of boring. This is also one of those games that's full of houses, none of which you can go in. This was common in sort of the initial explosion of open world games like the Grand Theft Auto 3 and beyond. Now this is even true in small ways. Look at this collectible on the ground. Consider that versus a collectible in something like a contemporary game like Super Mario Galaxy. They put this weird Matrix bullshit on top of it, but at its core, it's a completely static drag and drop little flag. It doesn't really feel substantive, and when you walk into it, it just disappears. And then they put this filter over the screen to make it seem as though they did the work to make it satisfying to collect, but none of that was actually embedded in the little item itself. It was just they put a big bright flash and a filter and a bunch of numbers and stuff. Now this, what I'm saying, is not a new opinion. This was largely the opinion of the people who played the game back in the day. Famitsu, for example, criticized the game for having camera problems and very simple one-button combat. Funnily enough, GamePro actually called it one of the finest gaming experiences ever made, which in hindsight is very funny. But this is not a review of Assassin's Creed. This is a video about something very specific in Assassin's Creed. I'm primarily here to talk about these lamps. I've always been fascinated by lights in video games. I think light sources in video games are a very cool thing. But in the context of Assassin's Creed, these torches, these lights, are very remarkable. And that's because of this. Active physics. Canned animation? No indeed. If you were on a game show where they had 100 video game objects and the question was, when I touch this object, will anything happen? Everybody would get the answer wrong when it came to these torches. And yet, bingo bango, they bounce like a balloon. Nothing else that you walk into has this kind of physical life in Assassin's Creed. The whole game feels pretty devoid of that kind of mushy human soul, Now, I'm not super far into the game. This is like the second city you go to, so there may be more stuff, and I'm really gonna have to wander around and dig through, see whatever other sort of inexplicable, or not inexplicable, but whimsical moments of physics, I can stumble across as I wander the streets of the old Holy Land, or I guess it's the current Holy Land, but whatever it is. But moments like this always stand out to me. I feel like a lot of video games have them, and they often do happen with swinging objects, but it stands out to me every single time. I mean, it's like if you were at Disneyland and somebody suddenly opened one of the painted doors and walked out of it, you'd be like, oh, I didn't realize that was like a real object. I thought we were in a theme park. And most of Assassin's Creed does feel like a weird theme park in that way. Very controlled environment. But the torches are one of the few times that, whoa, I made it swing all the way around. Consider this thing, right? This thing doesn't swing. This thing stands the heck still. These torches are one of the few moments so far in the game that I accidentally felt a little bit of life, So I thought you might enjoy that. There's another really great example of this in a game that also is incredibly rigid and inorganic feeling. And that, of course, is the wonder that is Skyrim. Anyone who's played Skyrim extensively knows about this, right? Boom! Look at that sign swing. Boom.
What are you doing that for?
What do you mean, what am I doing that for? I'm trying to show the people touching moments of human physics in otherwise artificial games. I mean, look at how that's swinging. They must put some Vaseline up there. I mean, that thing is swinging. Wowza. Skyrim's other great example of this is the fact that all of its pick-upable objects can be rendered in sort of the physics engine. So if you step on these, you get this little fun situation that occurs. And nobody really cares because all of the inhabitants of this world don't actually know about physics. It's a little bit like quantum physics in our world, right? If someone was mucking about stepping on our tomatoes in a quantum physical space, you too would just be standing there looking. Because they don't really understand it.
What are you doing that for?
Do you have any favorite moments of unexpected physical whimsy in video games? If you do, post them in the comments, and if there's enough, I will, maybe I'll make a whole video about those little moments. Anyway, if you want to see more Assassin's Creed, let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you like this video, blah, 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 blah. You know the drill. Thanks for the support. I appreciate all of my patrons who you can see scrolling by on the screen. And of course, I've got more music for you today because that is what I do in my free time. I play Xbox 360 games and I make music. Welcome to my life.
I don't know exactly what I wanted to do with my time.